How did a 22-year-old Norwegian become the most wanted man by the Nazis? Here is Gunnar Sønsteby, just an ordinary young man in a suit. Yet his story is anything but ordinary. Beneath Sønsteby's calm demeanor hid a master of disguise and a relentless saboteur. He coordinated daring missions that crippled Nazi supply lines, executed high-profile operations that disrupted German war efforts, and became a symbol of defiance. His codename? Number 24. His mission? To fight tyranny at any cost. Join us as we dig into the past and fast forward through history to uncover the incredible story of Gunnar Sønsteby, Norway's number 24. From sabotage missions to evading the Gestapo, you won't want to miss the daring exploits of this extraordinary resistance fighter with unbreakable will. When Nazi Germany invaded Norway on April 9th, 1940, it took the nation by surprise. Norway's strategic ports and vast coastline made it an invaluable prize. The government, caught off guard, capitulated within a mere 2 months. But surrender did not mean silence. As the Nazis took control, some Norwegians took action. Nazi propaganda was torn down, refugees were sheltered, and intelligence was being circulated. It was the resistance, and it continued to grow into an organized movement. However, the risks were enormous. The Gestapo, Hitler's secret police, were brutal in suppressing dissent. Arrests, torture, and executions were common. For many, the price of resistance was too much to bear. This was the world Gunnar Sønsteby entered. At just 22 years old, he watched his homeland fall under Nazi control. But instead of despair, he joined the fledgling resistance and quickly became an absolute nightmare for the Gestapo. He had ingenuity and resolve, but one skill in particular would make him a hero of the resistance. One of the most dangerous tasks for resistance fighters was getting past Nazi checkpoints. Sønsteby proved highly skilled at forging identity documents. Sønsteby was so good at forgery that he could even replicate the signature of Nazi police chief Karl Martensen. Not only did Sønsteby craft false papers for resistance fighters, but also for Jews fleeing the Holocaust and anyone who needed to slip through Nazi checkpoints. This single contribution would save countless lives, but it wasn't enough for Sønsteby. He soon joined Milorg, Norway's underground military organization. Milorg was determined to sabotage the Nazis, gathering intelligence for the Allies and preparing for a possible Allied invasion. Sønsteby hid in plain sight, and his ever-present bicycle was part of a costume of the mundane. His codename, Number 24, in many ways reflected his talents for disguise. A factory worker one day, an accountant the next, his ability to adapt was legendary. But multiple personas was not enough to evade the Nazis. To avoid capture and stay ahead of the Gestapo, Sønsteby's survival depended on constant movement. He secured over 20 locations to spend the night, never staying in any location for more than a couple of days. Sønsteby rotated through them all every couple of months. Some were flats, others hidden rooms. One such room was above a bakery. Sønsteby explained, "When I came to the baker's shop, I always looked at the girl selling bread. If she gave me a special face, I knew the Germans were there, and I would turn around." This vigilance may have allowed Sønsteby to remain uncaptured, but it was his nerves of steel and acts of sabotage that would drive this mild-mannered Norwegian to the top of the Gestapo's most wanted list. Sønsteby's missions were as daring as they were brilliant. One of his most impactful operations targeted Oslo's Central Railway. German forces relied on it for transporting troops and supplies. Sønsteby coordinated a team to plant explosives on the tracks. It had to be perfectly timed to avoid harming civilians. The explosion sent German logistics into chaos. He was also instrumental in the Norse hydro sabotage, where Norwegian resistance fighters crippled Germany's access to heavy water, a critical component in their nuclear weapons program. Sønsteby ensured the operation succeeded without significant harm to factory workers. But Sønsteby wasn't all explosives and raids. His subtle tactics were just as audacious. In one mission, he and his team infiltrated a Nazi storage depot and walked out with hundreds of German uniforms. These disguises became essential for covert missions, allowing resistance fighters to move undetected. However, the war did take its toll. His father was arrested by the Gestapo in February 1943 as a hostage and held for nearly 2 years. Sønsteby carried this weight, but never wavered in his mission. By 1944, Sønsteby was the Gestapo's most wanted man in Norway. Posters with his description, aliases, and codename, Number 24, were everywhere. On one occasion, a German officer suspected Sønsteby was in fact Number 24 and arrested him. Sønsteby's response? Complete calm. He simply struck up a casual conversation and acted so convincingly ordinary that the officer let him go. It was a close call. During the final months of the war, Sønsteby 24 would carry a hand grenade at all times, not for sabotage, but to sacrifice himself if captured, and to avoid revealing any secrets under torture. "I was so cold," Sønsteby later said, reflecting on his extraordinary psychological resilience. Cold indeed. He trusted no one outside his small circle of operatives. Each safe house was temporary, and every mission was planned with meticulous detail. His cold-blooded calm and keen awareness gave him a much-needed edge. Whether slipping past checkpoints, using forged documents, or spotting danger from a subtle gesture, Sønsteby avoided capture time and time again. But it wasn't just his survival that mattered. It was his defiance. Sønsteby proved that even under relentless pursuit, the resistance could succeed. Sønsteby wasn't just a resistance hero. He embodied the spirit of a nation refusing to yield. After the war, Sønsteby's bravery was recognized with numerous honors, including Norway's highest military decoration, the War Cross with 3 swords. Yet, he remained humble. Reflecting on that time, he stated simply, "I was just doing my duty." Gunnar Sønsteby's story teaches us that standing up for what's right isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear. Sønsteby's acts of courage remind us that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things when they believe in a cause greater than themselves.